Hi folks, this is Tom, a Frugal Prepper. I'm going to talk a little bit today about why I have some older cars and um, why, what my plan is to restore my vehicle to working order after an electromagnetic pulse. After uh, either an EMP event, like from a nuclear disaster. They can also come from things like large transformers that explode. And solar flares, coronal mass ejections can also cause electromagnetic pulses. Um, and basically, what an EMP does, if you don't know, is it's going to. Oh, one other thing that can cause it is a meteor or asteroid entering the Earth's atmosphere and blowing up above in the upper atmosphere is also a possibility. And you might think, oh, these things aren't going to happen. Well, they have happened before. We had a major coronal mass ejection back in the late 1800s. They happen every so often. We didn't have very much electrical stuff back then to be disturbed. Asteroids have been hitting the planets for millions of years, right? So there are real possibilities these things could happen. And basically, it fries everything electronic. You can put certain things in Faraday cages to protect them. It's hard to put your entire car inside of a Faraday cage. But there's certain things in any vehicle that get taken out. It's not everything. It's not everything electrical. It's not wire. It's not simple switches. It's not relays necessarily. Um, but anything with an integrated circuit, anything with a lot of coilage, I should say, anything with an inductor is a likely target. This is a 1998 Buick LeSabre. Mine's very similar to this. Maybe it's not quite as shiny and a little more dented up. But I love this vehicle. It gets great gas mileage. It just cruises on the highway. It's a big car. It's comfortable. You can fit the whole family in it. I'm the second owner of this car. I've had it for a very, very long time now. I've put a few engines in it. Engines have a tendency to spin rod bearings, lose oil pumps, and spin camshaft bearings. Um, but my goal is it's got a bad engine in it right now. I'm getting ready to replace, and when I pull this old engine out, since I didn't drive it till it scattered this time, I'm gonna go ahead and rebuild it and have it sitting on an engine stand ready to go. Um, but I love this car. It's older. It's paid for. It's reliable, for the most part. It does. It did lose an engine, but it's old. It happens. Um, But the main thing is it's easy to find parts for, and it's relatively easy to work on, and it's relatively easy to know what its weaknesses are. It's plastic intake manifold, rod bearings, cam bearings, it's got those problems. I know what they are, so it makes it a little easier to diagnose when something goes wrong. So for an EMP event, one of the first things you're going to want to do is get a manual for your car. Now, I love to use All Data. Okay, All Data is great, but I want to have an actual paper manual for my car. So go to the Haynes online website, you click that you want to look for printed manuals, and you can put in the make and model and year and everything of your car, and then it will tell you what manual it is that you want. And you could buy it from them for $30 or whatever if you want to do that. I chose to go to eBay. Now, this is one I'm actually bidding on and winning right now. We'll see how much I win it for. Um, but this way I have a printed copy of the manual in case I need to look up like which bolts do I take out to replace this. It's here, it's handy, and I don't have access to All Data or one of those programs, or I don't have access to online manuals. I have a printed copy. Probably the next major thing you're going to want to protect yourself from an EMP is this. This is the computer, the electronic control module. This is the main integrated circuit part of your car that controls all of the sensors and electronics and monitors everything and the switches and does all that kind of stuff. Okay, um, these are expensive to buy new, but you can get them at junkyards pretty cheap, especially if you find an old car that maybe they're getting ready to crush anyway. Talk to them a little bit. Tell them you just want to get an old car and tear a bunch of the different sensors out of it so you have spare parts. See if you can make a deal with them. See if you can buy the whole car from them. A lot of times they give $100 for the car. If you give them 200, they'll give you the car. And then once you buy it from them, tell them, good, I just want to go strip all the parts that I want off of it. You can keep the shell and crush it and just call it even, And you got everything you need for $200. Maybe you can do it for less than that, but try to work something out. Don't go buy this stuff new. It's just too expensive unless you've recently run the lottery and you have all the money in the world. And if that was the case, you could build a Faraday cage for your whole car and you wouldn't need to do this. But these are typically pretty easy to replace. They're located in different places on cars, but you can find that in the manual. And now you can wrap these parts in aluminum foil, stick them in your closet, and they're EMP protected. Or you can build a Faraday cage or use a large metal trash can as a Faraday cage. Another thing I think you may need that would be a good idea to get would be the coil pack. These are not necessarily going to get fried, but it's possible. So I think it'd be a good idea to have the coil pack. These look different on every car. Some cars have one big coil and a little distributor system. Some cars, most of the newer cars these days, have these where you have a dedicated coil pack for either every 2 cylinders or every single cylinder has its own dedicated coil. These again are real expensive to buy new, but if you have an older car, the 95 through 2005 range, you can probably find 100 of them sitting around in junkyards that you can negotiate to get the parts real cheap off of. Because a lot of times, if they don't sell these parts, they go to the crusher after so long, they crush that car and they sell it for weight. And a lot of the stuff stays on it. So if they can make a couple $100 off the one they're getting ready to crush, or $100, and let you go out there with a screwdriver and pull everything, and they don't have to pay somebody to do it, they're more than likely going to do that. And I find the smaller junkyard you stay with as possible, it's more likely you're going to be able to deal with them. A lot of the great big ones have all these rules: no people in the yard without a person, and you can't pull your own parts. The smaller ones are more likely to let you do that stuff. Um, Having friends that work in junkyards is invaluable. My best friend works in a junkyard, so it's been invaluable for me. Um, Another thing I'm going to recommend is that you buy a cheap code reader. You can buy these at Harbor Freight, but I think their cheapest one's around $60 now. They used to have a little $29 one or something, but they got rid of that one. Their new one has a fancier scrolling display and all that stuff. You don't need it. You just need something that tells you the code. You can look that code up in a little book, and it'll tell you what sensor it is or what the problem is. You don't need it to necessarily tell you the code. This is one that's $26. It seems like a pretty nice one. It has a little bit of menuing system and stuff. But they make even cheaper ones that are like $14, free shipping, that just have lights that blink out the code to you. It'll work fine. It just take you a little longer to look it all up in the book and stuff. But feel free to spend as little or as much as you want. But ODB2 is a series of codes, and that code means the same thing on all the different cars. If it's such and such code, that's a throttle position sensor. If it's this code, it's an oxygen sensor. If it's this code, it's a cylinder number 3 misfire code. Okay, but this is how most auto technicians diagnose things now. Is the computer actually tells them what's wrong, they go get the part and they bolt it on. It's not like the old days where it was a skill, it was an art form to tune a carburetor and get it working right and get the points set and time just right. A lot of this stuff isn't as hard as it used to be for as far as diagnostics, but it's still physically demanding a lot of times. And a lot of the cars now, you're playing more. It seems like you're playing contortionist a lot more, trying to get the stuff. But having that code reader is going to be invaluable to tell you, like, if certain things have gotten fried, different sensors, what they are. Once you get the computer back online, then you can start troubleshooting everything else farther or further. This is another thing that I think I'm gonna get. Now I haven't; these aren't my parts yet. This is something I'm getting ready to do and I'm working on doing. Um, but this is a throttle position sensor. You know, hey, get one of these. Buy it new; it's $40, but you tear it off of a car that you made a deal to get the sensor off of. It's easy to get off. You have it. The other thing is you have these sensors around and you have the diagnostic tool. So when your car breaks, you don't have to go pay somebody a bunch of money. This is a fuel pump. You know, that's another good item just to have around. Get the fuel pump. But, I think this is a way to kind of not only save you some money, but if you put all this in a Faraday cage, you're prepared when the EMP happens. Of course, you're still going to need fuel, but you might consider learning how to make ethanol. This is Tom, your frugal prepper. I welcome any comments or questions. Thanks.